Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Dempsey. I'm the Executive Director for the Council of Juvenile Correctional Administrators, and I want to welcome you all to our CJCA Positive Youth Development Committee's Education Webinar Series. This is our fourth in a series of webinars this year focused on education and the juvenile justice system. Today's webinar focuses on technology on the youth facility campus. I want to thank you all for taking the time to participate in this webinar series, and a special thanks to Peter Forbes, Commissioner of Massachusetts DYS, Phil Harris from Temple University, and Simone Gonsolin from the American Institute of Research, who all have put a great deal of work into the preparation of these webinars. For those of you who might be new to CJCA, we are a national nonprofit organization formed in 1994 to improve juvenile justice systems, local secure correctional and residential facilities, services, programs, and most importantly, the long-term outcomes for youth and their families. CJCA represents the youth juvenile justice system CEOs in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and various major metropolitan counties across the country. So thank you again for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to Jonah, who's going to go through a few housekeeping items.
Thank you, Mike. So all attendees will be in listen-only mode for this webinar. Everyone will be muted. However, you can type, if you have a question, you can ask a question anytime by typing it into the questions panel in your GoToWebinar control panel. At the end of the webinar, there will be a Q&A session facilitated by Simone, and we'll get to all your questions then. This webinar is being recorded. A link to the recording and the PowerPoint presentation will be sent out following the close of the webinar in the coming days. Now I will turn it over to Peter Forbes.
Hi, this is Peter Forbes calling on the phone from Massachusetts Department of Youth Services. I'm chairing the Positive Youth Outcome Committee for CJCA. Mike gave a shout out to Simone and Phil, who've been working behind the scenes with us. We also have Michelle Phillips from DYS on the team. I want to thank and recognize Mike Dempsey and the whole team at CJCA for helping us put this together. It's been a team effort. This presentation will put emphasis on the diversity of learning, high school, higher education, community college, trade school programs, career technical education studies, and the Digital Connect for leisure homework studies. I had the opportunity to see Frank Martin present at a CJCA convening. I believe that was in Tampa, Florida, Frank. I'm not positive, but I believe it was. And I was super impressed with what was going on at the Oregon Youth Authority at that time. Frank Martin is the Justice Education Coach and Director of World Possible and former Education Director for the OYA. He's teamed up today with Michael Kahn, who is at the Willamette Education Service District, Youth Corrections Education. Mike's in charge of facility-based education at that location. So we're really fortunate to have Mike and Frank take us through what they're doing out in Oregon, and for the rest of us across the country to think about how that might be helpful and relevant for us. Two housekeeping items. One is there'll be a survey at the end of this. On the outside chance that you were to sign off early, please make sure you do the survey. And for those of you that cash out at the end, the survey will pop out when you log off. And our next date is June 4th, and we're going to be going over obstacles and remedies toward reentry at the policy level. So we have another webinar set up for June that I think is going to be very interesting as well. So from there, I'm going to go to, I'm not sure if it's Frank or Mike, but I believe I'm going to go to Frank.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's an honor to be part of this presentation. And I truly believe that the work that CJCA has done over the years is instrumental in promoting consistency in education and also well-being for youth. So I just want to have a quick shout out to all of you that do this work. I'm honored to do this today. On the first slide, I just want to mention real quick on, when I talked with Michael that, presenting this onto the area of education and technology, that the reason why we use the term campus than a correctional facility was we're running a community college program, trade school, and K through 12. So the site itself is really a campus, and kind of moving in that direction for our students gives them an identity of being in an institution of learning. And I just want to throw that out to you all.
Yep.
Michael, any?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this slide to change here. Let me go ahead and try to get this thing going. So, but let me introduce myself. So my name is Michael Kahn. I am the principal at McLaren Youth Correctional Facility. And I think Frank kind of talked about this, that we run K-12 on one side and we run college on the other side of the house. And so one of the things that we do, and I'll kind of, I'm not sure, for some reason I can't get the slide to change.
You're going to have infrastructure to make sure that your programs exist and can be sustained. So the agency policy was detrimental for us, especially with access to the internet, especially access to higher learning, and especially funding. These are key areas that we had addressed up front at the beginning, and to have the policy surrounding that.
So with the school policies on our side of the house was making sure we had a process for everything that we do, including how do we issue technology for the staff who oversee the technology, what's their processes, and making sure that we were in line with the rules and laws that was really created here in Oregon. It's kind of unique in the actual OARs. It talks about the responsibility of those who are operating the facilities to be able to offer the students the ability to get online. So when you have that as part of your OAR, how do you build the policies around it to make sure just day-to-day operations, things run relatively smooth? The great thing about Oregon is that the funding for us is pretty stable. The state several years ago came up with a pretty good funding formula that has made it so we can really rely on getting the funds that we need kind of year to year. So we don't have to kind of worry about some of those ebbs and flows that are going. The major thing we have to kind of look at is just the population, because the population really dictates the amount of funds that we get from facility to facility.
Next slide, please.
So Frank, you should have controls. If you try to click on the slide, and then you can use your arrow keys from there. See if that works.
Yeah, Michael's.
Yeah, it's not
working.
It's not letting us do that. So.
Yeah, so you're going to have to, we'll just say next slide and you can do it. For some reason, it's not working at our end.
Yeah.
Funding and resources, as Michael was saying, is detrimental. And I think one of the key areas is just like we said earlier, state funding. And I just want to note that one of the areas that often gets neglected is the older youth population, because you may gain funding through your Department of Education. It's those young people that have that high school diploma or that have aged out of the high school system that you need to identify and have funding for.
Yeah. So we do rely on in-kind donations. I mean, we couldn't be where we are without some of the software companies and Intel and Google being there right alongside of us as we started to implement some of these things. So being able to get the Rachel server donated, getting some of the Endless laptops first out there donated really helps us kind of push forward and see what it is, what works, what doesn't work, how do we adjust inside of the facilities. Another huge resource for us is all the MOOC programs out there. We do CLEP testing. So for those guys who aren't actually able to qualify for some of the grants, there is the ability to get up to 21 transferable credits through the CLEP testing site. So we're able to go ahead and do that stuff. Foundations and grants. We do Oregon Opportunity Grants, so our guys are available. They have the opportunity to get the the Oregon Opportunity Grant, but really the biggest for our older youth population, the biggest grant that they are eligible for is, for some of them, is the Pell Grant. So that was pretty instrumental for moving these guys from being able to take 1 or 2 courses to being able to enroll full time. So, and we set up some pretty clear policies with the community colleges and OYA. The other slide is really the industries, and we'll talk about this as we get into our shops. Those industry partners that we have really help kind of create some discounts for us when it came to purchasing equipment, and helping us with the whole, setting up some pretty advanced technology inside of our shops. So, and then state surplus, I don't know if every state has state surplus, but that's also a place where we're able to gather some of the materials for us, especially car parts. So, and cars actually is some of the things that we buy for our automotive shop.
So just an example here, that computer you see is a donation that we received from our state surplus, and they were literally DOC computers, and the kids literally built these computers to send out to all the facilities. They created education content in there. They put in the law library, the racial content, and several other programs that were donated to us from providers like, online folks that put it into a digital format. Education Portal did that early on. Next slide, please.
All right. So relevant vocational programs. About 5 years ago, we did a survey of all the youth inside of the facility of what types of programs would they like to have. This really being our older youth population. And so that was one kind of component that we looked at the guys, hey, you tell us, and that's where actually the automotive program came out of. So it was making sure that we were actually going to build programs that guys had interest in. The other thing we did was go out there and see actually what is actually, who's hiring, right? So we really focused a lot on the welding and making sure our guys had access to the tools and the machinery that they would be operating when they left the facility. So that way they could walk into any job and say, yes, I've operated that machine, or yes, I have my welding certificate. The community college partnerships, I'll kind of let Frank talk about a variety of partnerships that we developed with them. So
yeah, early on when we started the community college partnership, it was tied to the Pell Grant, and trying to get together with all of our community colleges to agree on process. And we have to send letters to have clarification about, youth getting into college, how is the money channeled. And I just want to mention that one of the key areas that we did was taking trust accounts that the state had, and that's where we resided the youth funding for the Pell Grant. Just to give you, I don't know if your state has that, but that was instrumental for us handling those fundings and getting the community colleges involved, and then using a lot of the online resources to spread the wealth of education so that any youth could get into college.
Right. Yeah, and if I go back to when the Pell Grant first was made available to us, it was getting even the attorneys at the community colleges on the same page for the interpretation of what the law says. So that's where a lot of the partnership, and they were able to go out and talk to some of the other colleges about, this is how we're interpreting this law, and so you guys are eligible. And so the colleges felt comfortable moving forward with issuing the Pell Grants. And because we are a facility, we serve everybody from age 12 to 25, and we needed to make sure we had the ability to offer any type of assessments in welding for any of our programs. So not only can guys get every type of high school diploma, but we also have 2 different GED testing centers inside of our facilities, located in 2 kind of different parts of the facility. CLEP testing for those guys who may not have the Pell funds or who actually want to move quicker and get their 21 transferable credits. Welding is another place we do quarterly weld tests. We bring actually a certifier in to our facility to actually run that with our guys, so that's been incredibly helpful. And but the next piece is really essential. I couldn't do this without the actual staff who are committed to doing this on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you can have all the policies and the procedures, but when it comes down to actually being there, boots on the ground and serving these kids, it really requires a committed staff. And I mean, people who are willing to work late, we're willing to do whatever it takes to kind of overcome any hurdle that we have. So,
And I just want to know too, the last target there, and Michael's pretty modest about this, but just the value that is in the students to assist on projects. And we literally seen it from the garden program that they donate food to the shelters, and also the technology programs. We had, youth actually configuring 100 Endless OS computers with the staff that came in from Endless and World Possible to get a program kicked off the ground. And we literally had kids tearing apart computers for a couple of days and doing it to get it on their living units. And it was pretty amazing that it was the students that were pushing forward, and also having students, actually evaluate the OS or evaluate the Rachel system within the campus. Skype, they also analyze. I mean, I owe a lot to the kids who want to do programming, who see a vision of being in high tech and literally wanting to get their hands on it. So I do appreciate Michael and their team. They're getting kids involved.
thank you, Frank. And we'll do the next slide. So security, security is the foundation on what the facility is built on. At the end of the day, it is the bottom of our pyramid. So we have several responsibilities, and those being the victims that are in the community. So how do we make sure these guys have access to things online? How can we do our best to make sure the victims are safe, so we don't have guys trying to contact them or whatever? So we really take that responsibility very serious, which is why we spend a tremendous amount of money and resources on just prevention. Everything from the locks that go on to the ports. Our monitoring system, we have someone who monitors usually at minimum in one classroom of their online activity at all times. And that's their sole job, is just to monitor that. Then we have several layers of keystrokes to be able to look back and see what actually they've typed into the computer, the ability to search histories. So we have probably about 5 different layers of security to ensure that we're operating within the OAR, which is also to protect the public. And another big piece for us is making sure the staff who are inside the facility feel like we're taking all the steps necessary to protect them as well. So when we hand them a piece of equipment, they can feel, pretty comfortable with the fact that they're not going to be supervising and not really knowing what this kid's doing. We train them on what a particular piece of software can do, or what a computer can do. We actually take out the Wi-Fi. We manually pull out the Wi-Fi piece on some of our computers, and then the staff are able to see that it really has no ability to connect. So those were, I can't stress enough how important it is to have those security pieces in place, because we ran into some situations where it's shown us we need to do a better job. Frank, with the wireless accountability, that's... Yeah,
I want to say, Michael mentioned layering, and this is a term we often use in the facilities. The layering of access, and at times we will have a computer lab that is into the internet. Kids are taking online courses, they're on the internet. But then when you get to a area that may have a Wi-Fi signal going out with the Rachel server, and the kids may have a Chromebook on which you're accessing it. But there's also a even deeper layer of security where they have all of the education content and applications and courseware within a laptop, and there is no Wi-Fi card in there. So depending on where you're at and where the student is at, depends on the model of that technology to give what type of access. And there's accountability for that. And one thing I just want to say, what Michael and the team does very well is, if something goes south in security, they don't shut down the whole program. They go work with that individual and work it from that part of it. And I think that's why security is also dependent on your relationship to keep programs running and addressing an issue by that individual's use.
Yeah, that's where the online monitoring piece for all of our labs. High school is a little bit different than college. High school has very limited access, and we build that through the Google kind of Chrome whole security side of that So that way they instead of saying, here's all the places you can go, we just limit it to 3, right? So we use that. Whereas in the college, we open that up to, because the college courses require them to do so much research on different topics, we have to keep that pretty open. So with that, it comes with more of the online monitoring piece of all their activity. The CellSense monitoring, really big for us because, as you know, anytime there's internet inside a facility, also comes cell phones and all that. So making sure that we can detect those.
All right, next slide, please. I threw this in here just to give you a sort of like a visual. Like 9-10 years ago, we put together this OER that kind of kick-started that, getting young people on the internet, getting access at a facility, having the ability to do email. And that's essential for programs to go forward. If you don't have that foundation, you're going to have trouble justifying why you're purchasing or why you're arranging your facilities in that order. Next slide, please. All right, there you go, big guy.
Yeah, so here's several photos, and I'll start with the high school. High school guys have access to what we call Acellus, which is an online learning program. Typically for elective credits, we don't offer core credits out of that unless there's a teacher attached to it. But it's also one of our GED testing centers. And then the middle picture is the college lab. So inside of that, again, all the guys can access whatever. We keep it within community colleges in the state of Oregon. We don't allow them to attend colleges outside the state because there are some security pieces with them crossing over state lines with the internet. So, and we can provide everything within the state of Oregon. And inside that, we do GED, CLEP testing with Oregon community colleges. And then after a guy gets his 2-year transfer degree, if they have the funds available to them, they can transfer to a 4-year degree at one of the local universities. And then in the last picture is the CAD lab, where we do a lot of designs for our machine shop, which we'll show you pictures here in a little bit. But none of those computers are actually online, mainly because we don't have a staff who can be out there monitoring their online activity, nor do they need it, because the program's right there on the computer. So you can go to the next slide there.
This has been a great tool for us. That's the the Intel device known as Rachel, and our friends over at World Possible that have definitely did a fantastic job corralling that is the content. It's been pretty amazing. It's been a game changer for our facilities, and we implemented these at all OYA facilities, and it really gave the security sense to programs of getting education content out there. A lot of the facilities actually connected the Rachel server to their school network. So if the school network went down or there was any issues, they could immediately go to Rachel. When we first received this, the crew over at Intel, the Forest Grove campus, said, how would you like to pilot it? And the teachers were great. I mean, they put together a college program and other school programs. That's before we had anything on it. And they were just jumping in and using it. I won't go through all the bullets on the technology, but the ability of getting this on our campus was essential for making sure there was safe digital content on the campus. And Jeremy Schwartz and his team there at World Possible really took this on to make it all possible. I know it sounds like a commercial, but it's the real sense of how it got to where it is.
Yeah.
Michael, you have? Michael?
No, it was really, that was amazing that when we started to get these things in, because it really did kind of revolutionize and make everybody feel safe inside the place. So we can go to the next slide there.
And this is another breakthrough that we take on it. And it's good to mention that a lot of these are new technologies that we've embraced. And I really appreciate the Oregon Youth Authority and its staff and the educators allowing us to test and field trial, these new technologies to get to the kids. And Endless OS for corrections was another game changer. We piloted at the facility, and we piloted in several other states in Oregon. I mean, I have fond memories of our friends over in Utah immediately running out and giving it to their folks within the living units, and it just kicked off from there. It opened our eyes to how young people were actually diving into the content, self-learning, self-guidance. and the breadth of it. Our team in Washington State did everything from, the special needs population, then also the kids that were preparing to transit out into college, all the content there. And so to us, this was like an essential tool that was that missing link, changing the culture, being able to be in a living unit and having access and creating your own digital presence, your own reality. And I often say the kids miss that digital connect. They're hungry for getting back to a keyboard and always remembering, they lost access to a laptop, their iPhone, and giving them more access to something that has content has been a game changer. So we've been developing this. Our friends over in Tillamook, the Geek Squad with Gary Westerby and crew, actually helped also to give feedback. And the Endless folks were also working with our kids in getting feedback and doing all the testing in that. Michael, you have the in-class experience too.
Yeah, so we our teachers want to have guys type research papers, and so we make them available to the guys to be able to do for any number of classes. But I think the biggest place for the Endless laptops for us has been out on unit is the ability for some of our guys who are PV or not safe enough to come to the actual place. We've downloaded on it the Oregon Law Library, so we're in compliance. So any guy on campus has access to the law library at any time of the day, and staff can feel comfortable knowing that it's a secure thing because it's downloaded on that. And then also for our students who are special ed eligible, making sure they have access no matter where they're at to some type of educational content. So those for us have been huge. It's allowed our guys to be able to do college even when they're out on unit, because we downloaded some of the CLEP courses onto them so the guys can access college from wherever they're at. The special placements and the units in the youth and healthcare facility, we've had a couple instances where guys completely unsafe to be able to come up, but we were able to utilize this and give them access to education in the places that they're at. And we work with the folks outside in those areas to make sure it's safe for everybody.
And some quick background, Endless OS, the design that Matt Dalio and his crew put together was essentially to be used worldwide with areas that did not have good access to the internet. And what was amazing was hearing from them like, hey, did you think about partnering up with getting this into corrections? And, that was a huge game changer, is having a group of individuals and programmers that were supported of this to get this out. And, it really hit the mark. So it's not only in facilities, it's worldwide where this effort is. I just have to mention that. It's just pretty amazing what we've seen thus far.
And from an IT side, the nice thing about this is if one of our computers is compromised with them able to get in there and download, put something on that they're not supposed to, we can just take out the hard drive and duplicate and put a new one in. So the ability to duplicate these hard drives and just put them back in there and then send it right back out has been a pretty quick turnover, so they can continue to have access at all times. So you can go ahead and change slides.
I just want to show some of our technical team here. We were really low on resources, but we were never low on kids willing and staff willing to help us out. And so just my hat's off to the young men who actually came up and actually helped us build our systems. Everything from doing standalone computers in education, as I mentioned earlier, the feedback for the Intel device, the Rachel, the Endless OS. They even tested out Skype. I'm never, beyond my words with these young people and what they're doing, and the staff, Mr. Westerby there, that inspired them. So several facilities, we have young people with all these skills, and they're just waiting to tap into it. And I just want to take my hat off to them.
Yeah, because these guys in one day were able to. We removed well over 100 cameras, and then all the Wi-Fi components inside of it, and they pulled them apart and actually disabled them internally, so we could ensure that there was these things were secure. So a huge effort from our guys.
Next, please. This is just a shout out to the young people that make it happen in their achievements and why we do what we do and the infrastructure we set up so they can go to school. I mean, this is
Yeah, so this young man, I mean, you know, he was able to be with us long enough to be able to get his 4-year degree, and then was able to have his sentence reduced, and then actually is now partnering with OYA to come to do some outreach stuff to our guys who are currently on campus.
He's now a parole officer.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
get that.
Yep.
All right, next, please.
Yeah, here's another one of our guys that he was actually able to go through all of our college, got his barbering certificate, worked at almost every single one of the places we have on campus. So he left there again as he went to have his sentence reviewed, was able to get clemency because of all the things that he's accomplished. So hats off to that young man for the things that he did inside the facility to make it so he was able to transition and be successful. And he comes back and gives speeches to our guys. So we keep our guys kind of coming back and mentoring our younger youth inside the campus.
And Brandon definitely had a positive attitude, even when things were down, when we first started with education and we didn't have resources. But he always, you know, one of the young people that kept thriving. What do you have? What can I do? Definitely somebody who was a good example to others. Next, please.
So this next set of slides really just kind of shows the technical equipment we have out in our shops. So there's the computer side of the house where these guys are online college, but then there's also making sure they're able to operate the machines that are currently the industry is using. So we made a tremendous investment in making sure that our older youth had access to the same equipment that they would have access to at a community college. So that way when they leave us and they're able to go to a community college, they can jump right in and continue on with whatever degree they're pursuing. But in order to do that, you have to have a massive investment in the staff to be able to pull it off. So what we really try to get them to do they first start in the CAD room, then we start transitioning them out to all the equipment that we have that runs off of computer numerical controls and coding, and they do all that. We program the machines, and then we're able to take videos as they're about to transition out and send them to potential employers so they can see actually what equipment these guys are used to doing. So we use plasma tables. We do CNC lathe, which is for our machining, and then CNC on-routes, which we make a lot of our dog houses for a local nonprofit that go throughout the state of Oregon. In addition to tool control, it's able to do all the cutouts for all our toolboxes.
And just to mention real quickly, because we initiated an older youth program, that allowed us to target funding, and we allow youth on all levels to have access. But this was initially, again, when you, as a state, set up funding, do not forget those older youth and leverage that funding.
Yeah. You can go to the next slide. I talked about this a little bit already, but this is really where everything starts for our shop is the computer-aided design. So we use Mastercam, which communicates to every type of machine we have on campus. So guys are taught how to use those machines manually, but then they're also taught at the same time how to operate them using CNC coding and the CAM software. They practice a lot on our laser engraver. That's kind of where you first start out with, and you're able to do some designs, and then you can transfer it over and do some artwork. But again, security being really important, we need to make sure that nothing comes in or out of this shop. So even though they make things, unless it's ordered by a customer, they don't take anything back with them because of the difficulty of trying to control what it is they're making. Because to us, it may look like one thing, but it could have a totally different meaning upon exit. So we just do everything within that shop.
Next, please.
Welding, there's always a need for welders out there. I'll kind of go to the middle slide first, which is a virtual welder. So we found we were spending a tremendous amount of money just on materials with our new welders because they didn't know the distance, and they would break tips or we'd lose a lot of wire. So before any guy ventures out into the shop, they go through the virtual welder. We put the helmet on. We program them for any type of welding we want them to practice before they get out there. And it really is virtual welding. It looks like you're actually holding the stick in your hand and you're doing welding. Plus, it helps to make sure that their skill set actually increases faster with the practice on the virtual welders. The left side is a piece of machinery that we used before a weld test. We actually brought in a testing machine, so we test all their welds before the instructor comes in, so they know whether or not their weld is going to hold up when it comes to certification. So that's that hands-on practice, the ability to review what it is you're doing and then improve. And then the industry tools, the slide on the right, is a big saw that we're able to cut just about anything in mass amounts. So if we're going to do a production run for anybody, we're able to do that pretty quickly, and the guys are able to use a pretty big saw that'll cut everything from small pieces of metal to I-beams if needed. So.
And again, my hat's off to the kids and staff. The welding booths were what the kids created and staff.
Yeah.
They were old metal beds. And if you could have seen this place, again, bragging about the team, they literally cleared out an old building and made it into a professional learning center for welding. Yeah. Next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that they had relevant technology. A couple photos of our guys using the pieces of equipment. One of the things that's not on this slide but has helped us tremendously is, as a facility and being an older facility, we have pieces and parts that break that are no longer manufactured. So what our guys are able to do, and these are a couple of our pretty talented guys, is they're able to actually design the part, and then we can manufacture right there on the facility and cut costs and cut time. If we have an immediate safety and security risk, we can have something turned out within 24 to 48 hours to fix whatever it is. That could be anything from recessed lighting to the locking door mechanism on a particular door that we need fixed right away. So the shop is used also for us to actually manufacture things just right there on site for our partners with OIA.
And I want to do a quick shout out, Brandon Martin there. You know, he was well versed in welding. He was a mentor to other youth, but he also won an award. The crew over at CEAS, actually, he won a award for his poetry. So just to show the diversity of our young people, of their interests and their skills, I just want to point that out. It was just amazing young people that come through these facilities.
Yep.
Next slide, please.
So this was the newest program that when we surveyed all the guys on campus, they really wanted to have an auto shop. So we partnered with Snap-on to be able to purchase just about any piece of equipment that you would need that a community college would have in order to get an ASC certification, including the curriculum. So we got a teacher in there who was able to, who knew all about it. That's trying to find the right person for the job is not easy. But once you do, the program's kind of taken off. So we have guys who can leave our site with their ASC certifications. We do all testing right there inside the facility. All the studying takes place. Because we're a large facility, we have a lot of vehicles on campus. So again, the ability for us to repair our own vehicles and maintain our small engines. We run a lot of lawnmowers, Kubotas, just about any type of motorized equipment we have. So they learn the engine performance piece of it, and then they're able to use the technology that's currently out there to do diagnostics. So they can leave there and walk into a shop and know how to diagnose a problem, and then what tools are they going to need to fix it. So keeping up with the technology that's currently in the auto shops was huge. But a big thank you to Snap-on, who was right there along with us as we did this. So much so they were able to do the foam cutouts for every single one of the tools inside those toolboxes. Because again, safety and security being important, when we have to do a tool count at the end of the day, how do you account for all these tools? And so they were able to do foam cutouts, which then we bought the equipment to do our own, which we're able to do in all our shops.
And just some background for you folks out there. This is not a new building by any shape or form. We literally had to create some positive pressure on some of our administrators to say, hey, can we have back a building that once was at one time used as a automotive program? And I just want to say there was a great group of people that actually pulled that together. I know my colleague Tracy Hightower was great and instrumental in pulling this off. and getting all the pieces together. And, it's a real team effort. And it's amazing. You walk in here, you think it was brand new. Next slide.
So the last place where we brought technology in was the machine shop. So you'll see a picture of some mills and some lathes. All those are, we can operate manually or we can operate through CNC. So we wanted them to learn how to use these machines both ways. They learned how to operate it, and we're able to make just about anything. I mean, if you can dream it up, I'm sure we could make it. Even so much as we can do castings of kids' feet that are actually perfect to the actual ridges on their sole. So, yeah. So you can go to the next slide. We talked about this a little bit, but we wanted to make sure everything had a certification or credits. So both of our teachers out in the Moody building, which is where we have all these things, can also offer college credit through a local community college, which was a great partnership. So those guys who are ready to transfer, have a real desire for this, can get college credits right there. And our instructors are allowed to do the testing, and then they're pass or fail. So we actually have college instructors and also their high school teachers as well. We do welding certificates. We do forklift certifications. So we run 6 kids. That's a big thing out there for jobs right now. So we run 6 kids a term through the forklift. CAD. We talked about college with 2- and 4-year degrees, high school diplomas, and ASC automotive certifications. So those are the real big ones that we can get.
Next, please.
So, these guys are inside of a facility, so making sure they actually know how to drive. We started a virtual driving class where we now have the guys go in there, so they're prepared to go out and get their driver's license upon exit. Plus we wanted them to get firsthand experience, so we tied that in with a shuttle service we run with our golf carts. So our guys are able to drive around campus and pick staff up because it's so large, and then transport them to and from. The great thing about having our own shop is we're able to fit our golf carts so they can only go a certain speed, and also we can automatically shut them off. So again, safety and security is pretty important. Forklift certifications, we have 2 different types. We have electric forklift, and then we have our propane forklift. So we try to get them time on both.
Next, please. This is a great setup a diagram, I should say, how we set up the access layers. And basically the school time, there's internet access, highly supervised, tracking, and then you see the closed systems. And that's where we have the Rachel servers, the Endless OS laptops all through. And so this was a quick slide I wanted to show how things work in a fundamental layering approach, that you have all different types of access, but it depends on who has what in their hands at what time and what program. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is actually it may look a little bit confusing, but it's a slide to show how we united the Oregon Youth Authority sites and then also the county sites. So we literally were able to use the Google accounts for giving kids a ID and also staff IDs. And in that way, we were able to track the whole system of youth moving throughout not only Oregon Youth Authority, but also youth moving within the county corrections for detention or other programs. So Eden Nelson was instrumental in this. He helped us roll out Google years ago. We were able to be one of the first sites in the state to kickstart, Google Apps for Education. And I just want to say that it enabled us to have a comprehensive picture. And I'm not plugging money or anything, but it was just a low cost for us to do this. I know other states may have other preferences, but that's what we used within Oregon. And this is just a broad picture site that I wanted to let you know because it was instrumental. We also had our initial kickoff. Once we got started with Google, we had James Waterman from Google do a presentation with us. in which we invited other states and other facilities. We also had David's group from CEAS come in and also help our teachers be trained. So there's a lot of shout out to a lot of people from different nonprofits, for-profits that help to connect the dots in this. And we also had folks from Google actually even give us, a lead into addressing issues when we saw them. They were pretty supportive, like the other technology programs, Intel, World Possible, and also Endless. Next slide, please. This is not an eye exam. I know this is very small, but this is something that we were asked to do at one time. The leadership team at Google asked us, so what would it look like? And what are you doing and which way is it going? And the same thing came from our administration. They wanted to see how is it that technology is used in corrections. So what would, digital equity look like on a big, broad base to getting the resources to an individual in the system? And I just wanted to throw that out there very quickly, just to show you a pathway more than anything else. I'm not going to walk through it because I want to get to questions. So I believe that's it. Michael, do you have anything else? Or?
No, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Frank and Michael. We certainly do appreciate the information you're sharing with us today on the webinar. We have several questions, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So the first question is, are the instructors for the vocational programs hired by the Oregon Youth Authority, or are they community college employees?
Oh, it's a great question. So they're actually hired. I work for Willamette ESD, which is an educational service district. So they're hired by us. And when I go to hire anybody, I look to see if, one, do they have their teaching license for K-12, and then two, do they have the ability, if we were to connect them with a community college, to have the background and the credentials necessary to be recognized as someone who can issue college credits. So we send them through a variety of different partnerships. We get them connected with the community college. So that's how we do it out here, is that we find people, and then but that's not easy. I mean, you have to really work at it.
Okay, great. And is your service district, is it operated by the State Department of Education, or is it a separate entity completely?
Yeah, so it's not operated by the state. What the state does is puts out a contract for the youth correctional education programs. So, and then the school districts, or the ESDs as we call them, which is the Educational Service District, kind of bid on those. And then they're awarded a contract from the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed is really the one who oversees the contract. But since we're on site, I work primarily with the OIA folks on a kind of a day-to-day basis. So we are our own education, we are our own kind of district, but the Department of Ed is the larger district, if you could.
And there's another layer to this. There's also the VSOI program, and that's the program for the older youth. And we also open that up, for bid, just like the Department of Education does. But we usually align it with the folks that are already running programs at the facility. So there's a few layers of funding that comes in for the education resources.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of that equipment was able to be purchased, was using those older youth dollars, because K-12 dollars, there's not enough there once you kind of get through all the staffing to be able to purchase pieces of equipment. So we use the older youth dollars, and our high school guys are able to actually just benefit from being able to go out to those sites and learn on some of those. But it was definitely bought for the older youth, and they're the ones who primarily access it.
Yeah, and we had a pretty straight line for purchasing. It's pretty amazing how quick we got this all done. Even our higher management just were amazed when they actually walked on campus and saw what was there.
Thanks. So let me ask this question. Those older youth dollars that you're referring to there, are they mainly state general funds, foundations, or are these federal dollars? Could you talk to the group a little bit about that, especially if any funding is outside of the state of Oregon?
It was state dollars that we utilized, and it was identifying the same amount of funding that was per child cost for K through 12. and we wish to align those same dollar fundings to get to those older youth. A little history, what happened was that there was I believe it was called a lawsuit that had occurred, that funding wasn't being supportive of the older youth, in which those dollars were identified from the state government to provide that. And the Oregon Youth Authority took those funding then and allocated it with partnerships in education. Michael, do you have any?
No, that's
Okay.
pretty.
And again, the definition was a youth in the vocational program, VSOI we called it, was a young person who had graduated with a high school diploma or was above the age of 21. And it was aligned to the standards for, getting the underage youth that could get K through 12. Suddenly, their age limitation went past that, so they still needed education. And that's where we see a lot of gaps through the country, is that portion of that population not getting enough resources, just from my observation.
Right. Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Another question we have is, were the youth who helped build and test the programs provided with incentives, rewards, stipends?
No, not really. I mean, with computers that we've done, they're actually critical in the whole process, because they're the ones who are going to show us what does and doesn't work and the gaps in our security. So for us, giving it to them was the right thing to do, because they're the ones who were going to test it, and we were only going to know there were problems. The only time we'd know is if they had it in their hands. The guys out in the shops who worked out, that they have a job. Some of those guys actually have a job, and they were paid their stipend on some of those, but the majority of it was just kind of the team effort. Hey, we want to improve this place. Let's do this. And you'll learn how to do construction along the way. And they learned a great deal, and those skills were able to be transferred out for employment. So, we're really looking at the Moody shop really kind of evolved over 3 years. So there's about 3 different groups of kids who were essential to that. But yeah, we don't, the incentive, I'd buy them pizza, after, I wouldn't, that's about the extent of the incentives that I think we gave out.
The other key point is the civic duty. And what always amazes me is the type of young person that wants to be a parole officer, that wants to be a counselor, that wants to work at a food co-op. It's amazing that the kids have it within them to give back. And also they want to improve their living within the facility and be a part of that improvement. That sometimes I think is sometimes overlooked, is that will to give and the will to improve one's standing of where they're at right now and to help others. I was always amazed that the kids were doing the works with the computers because they knew it was going to another facility and they knew that it was going to help one of their peers out. So I was, taken aback by the positiveness of their outlook on it.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that response. Another question pertains to a person who is actually teaching students or certifying students as welders. Are they employees, or do they work under MOU or contract?
Yeah, so we have the teachers who, like I said before, our welding instructors who are actually kind of go through one of the community colleges, but the certifier, we actually contract for the certifier to come in. So our teachers teach them how to do the welding, and then they test there using that tester machine. But we try to bring in an actual certifier at minimum twice a year and bring all those guys through to be able to test for whatever it is they're ready to test for. So we'll do MIG, TIG, wire welding, you name it. We do all those types, and thickness. So we have guys who are certified to do any number of thicknesses, unlimited thickness, based on their ability to do welding and their certification.
Great. Thanks for that comprehensive response. We have another person who actually has a request, not a question. They said it'd be wonderful to get examples of a few of your policies that Oregon, as it particularly relates to security and internet and use of computers on the dorm and then also in the classrooms, or any sort of procedures that you think would be really helpful in looking at those policies. So if there's some way you could get maybe a handful of policies together for us, send them to CJCA, we can then get them out to the participants on the call. Would that be possible?
Oh, that's totally possible, because what I do is we have a college handbook. So inside that is pretty comprehensive of all the policies and then the day-to-day operations. So I'm happy to make that available to anybody.
Okay. All right, great. Well, if you wouldn't mind sending that to Darlene, that would be great. We sure would appreciate that. One other question, what is the recidivism rate for the young people who go through your educational program?
I've been out of the business, so I don't know what the current rate is, but I do know that the research shows that the more education an individual has, the less likely they're going to recidivate. I don't have it at the top of my head, but what I do know, just with the work that I've had with young people as a parole officer, parole manager, working in the education field with OYA, is that I meet the kids literally at times in a parking lot, at a restaurant. They want to show me their kids and what they're doing, what their jobs are. I mean, I have that real life perspective of the data, and I hardly, can say more about that. Michael,
Yeah, we're actually really curious on this since we started. The GED testing has increased at our facility, is to see whether or not the GED, when they get out, because it allows them to go to different programs versus just a program that they have to go to high school, they can move right into employment. So for us, we're watching to see, does that actually reduce recidivism because they're able to go into a program where they can go out and get a job versus go into a program where they have to go to high school and then the PO getting upset, the kid not attending and all those things, or something happening at the high school and them coming back. So, but I do know my older youth population, once they kind of hit that college piece of it and they're attending or they're getting their welding certificates, just in the anecdotal data, I don't see them as often. The younger population, we do see somewhat of a revolving door for probably about 2 to 3 years. But in the large scope of things, we deal with 500 kids a year, and there are very few that are coming back.
And I do know that from the expansion of the technology and all the programming, and I receive this information from both the pilot sites I've worked with, but also with the administrators of OYA, is that oftentimes the kids have things to do, have access, and the incident rates tend to, decline with that. And I think that's probably an important factor, that they're occupied. The downtime is used. And I can't speak for all kids, but I just know, or all administrators too, is that it does have an effect on the atmosphere of a living unit and also a facility.
Right. Great. Thanks so much for that answer. And I think we have time for one more. Frank, this is probably a question for you. Do you know of any other states or facilities outside of the state of Oregon that have started similar programs?
Well, I do know my friends in Utah are very progressive in putting together. I know Steve there is working on culinary program, and in college now, getting young people in there. I'm not sure if they have the industrial arts, but I do know that they promote the college content courses. I don't know. Usually the sites I'm working with presently are ones that want to expand, courses, but I've been to great programs that have, welding going on. I was at Florida. Julie Orange had a fantastic program where the kids had a welding program that was really inspirational for a remote area. But there's different types of programs throughout the United States I've seen, but I haven't seen one that, and I'm not bragging about Oregon, that has this. The state of Washington, I've been out there. They have some very good voc ed, welding, and similar programs. I can speak for that I've seen. But yeah, there are programs that are coordinated out there. I didn't come prepared for that question. I'm sorry, but I'll probably remember when I'm driving home today and say I should have mentioned somebody. Yeah, but there are good people that are I have to say that, roll up their sleeves and create some fantastic opportunity and are self-driven. And that's always impressed me with the education and voc ed that goes on.
Very good. Well, Frank and Michael, thank you so much for your time and sharing your information with us. Your contact information is on the screen. I'm turning things back over to Peter, who has a few final thoughts and some information about our next call. Peter, can I turn it over to you?
Sure. So the survey, when you log off, the survey will pop up. It'll be really helpful to get feedback. I want to thank Frank and Michael in particular for taking the time to share with us. I think it was very helpful, at least for the team here at Massachusetts. And on June 4th, Monday, June 4th, we're doing a piece on obstacles and remedies, really at the policy level for reentry and our work, our collective work with the school districts. So I think that's going to be a really good session. Thank you all for participating and hope to have everybody sign on in June. Thank you, Simone. Over and out.